by Megan. There we go. Thank you, Zoanne. We're joined today by Megan, who is a trainee solicitor at a top 40 firm and creator of It's All Hearsay. So today we're going to have a look at how to discuss types of experience within applications, as definitely myself, but many applicants undersell themselves in applications, and with skills that they do have or that think that their experience isn't valid enough. So hopefully this will shed some light on the area. As an introduction to the legal mile, we are a legal network set up during the pandemic by predominantly international students looking to secure training contracts in the UK. The aim is to help students and grads from all backgrounds, as we believe that anyone can be a solicitor. The recruitment process is just a tad specific. So I'll pass it to Megan to give a bit of information about herself and It's All Hearsay.
Thanks so much, Alex. So yeah, hi everyone, I'm Megan. I recognise a few names in the audience that I've spoken to before, so hi, nice to see you all again. I'm a second seat trainee at an international law firm in London, and I'm currently sitting in the real estate department. My last seat was in litigation. Prior to this, I went to the University of Lincoln, which is a non-Russell Group university, and then I went on to do my LPC and LLM full-time, while also working part-time as a paralegal at a private client firm. And then after that, I worked as another paralegal in a litigation firm, Mishcon, for 3 years before securing my training contract. And as Alex has kindly said, I am the founder of It's All Hearsay, which is a page offering help and guidance to all aspiring lawyers. So that's kind of a bit of a background about me. Is that all right, Alex? Do you want me to say anything else?
Of course it is, thank you. So I know from your page that you've been through the application process a few times, and I was wondering if you could let our audience know a bit more about that, please.
Yeah, so my journey to becoming a trainee was pretty hard. I didn't really reach out for help. I didn't really know what it was I was meant to be doing. I was kind of just stabbing in the dark, and it was something that really frustrated me because I'm the kind of person that likes to know things. I like to have knowledge and experience under my belt. So I couldn't find any information out there about how you should really approach training contracts, and my career centre at university just wasn't very helpful. And I think that's kind of the same with most non-Russell Group career services. It's not something that's really pushed. So yeah, I did a lot of searching and research, and there was just nothing really there that was readily available. So I just kept doing what I was doing. I didn't really switch up my approach to things. I just kept doing the same old thing, and it just didn't work. And that meant I kept applying year after year. And then all of a sudden it just kind of finally clicked. Once I became a paralegal at Mishcon, I started to really think about what it was that the recruiters were looking for. And then, I just became very successful from that in terms of my cycles, that I started getting some back schemes, some interviews, and I was suddenly just thinking, wow, why didn't I do this in the first place? And it all comes from not having any information. So that's kind of why I started It's All Hearsay, because I wouldn't want anyone to feel like I did. I don't want anyone to feel like they're alone. And there's definitely an art to getting it right. But yeah, if you don't have the information up front, then that's quite difficult to hit the ground running with. So yeah, that's kind of my journey. And it was all down to how I was approaching applications. I don't think there was anything within my experience or my background that particularly let me down. Obviously, it feels like that when you are getting the rejections, but it really is just how you write your applications at the end of the day and how you can sell yourself on paper. So that's what I'm trying to help people to do.
Thank you. So I know definitely from my personal experience, I found applications are a tad niche, to put it that way. But I know you said that your applications were more successful after you started paralegaling. So I was wondering whether you think that a lack of or minimal work experience or in the legal sector can prevent you from securing a TC?
I think it plays a factor, but I don't think it prevents you from securing a TC. I don't think having a paralegal role on my application made me any more successful. I genuinely think it was how I started approaching applications, and that just came from being aware of how law firms operate. So it does play a part, because ultimately I think paralegal experience, which I'm sure we'll get onto later, isn't quite important, but it's not the be all and end all, and it's not something that you absolutely need to have, because there's plenty of other ways of showing the same sort of skills. But saying that, having the awareness of how a law firm operates and their practices and processes, and looking at how grad rec are bringing in back scheme students, work experience students, definitely gave me a better awareness. So yeah, it's annoying, because I would like to say no, paralegal experience does not help, or isn't essential, or doesn't make your applications better, but it makes you as a candidate better, I think, just from that awareness. Yeah, it's a kind of a bit of a yes and a no.
Thank you. But I know from your Instagram again that you had a few different jobs before you started more paralegal work. Which type of your non-legal experience do you think was the most valuable, or provided the most valuable transferable skills for you?
Working at Nando's absolutely was the most valuable experience I think I've ever had. I worked at Nando's for 5 years, and it defined my work ethic. Everything that I learned during that experience set me up as being a good lawyer or a good trainee. It gives you people skills, teamwork skills, communication, working under pressure, dealing with customer complaints, which is exactly what being a lawyer translates to. So anything to do with retail, hospitality, or just any part-time job, in the real world, learning about businesses and dealing with customers on a daily basis is going to set you up perfectly. So I think all experience is experience, and it's just about how you write it and how you portray what transferable skills you've learned in the process that will really help you to land TC apps.
Thank you. So I know a lot of people, I know definitely I do, alongside my degree, I keep a lot of student jobs going, so more waitressing, retail, and experience in societies. How would you talk about those making them sound effectively like they provide more transferable skills and are as valuable as they are?
Well, I think the first thing I always ask people to do is think about how those skills benefit them being a good lawyer. And I think once you start thinking about it from the other point of view, not kind of like what I did, the tasks and the descriptiveness of it in isolation, you need to be looking at those experiences and thinking.
Sorry, I think you're muted.
Yeah, somebody just muted me. Where did you hear up to?
You only cut you off a few seconds before.
Okay, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
What was I saying? Yeah, you need to think about them not in isolation, but literally how the skills that you are developing in that role benefit you as a lawyer. So it's the same sort of buzzwords that I kind of said in real estate, in retail and hospitality, but communication, being a voice for people, I think especially within societies, that's quite important. Making decisions, multitasking, juggling things alongside your university degree or whatever things you've got on, is so valuable. But how you need to talk about them is to make them quantifiable, to make them matter. So you can obviously hit all of these buzzwords that I'm kind of mentioning, but if you don't specify to the recruiter what it is that you achieved or the impact that you had or how you contributed to that role, then it doesn't really hold much weight. So this can be numbers, it can be feedback, it could be, for example, if you run an Instagram account, like what I do, I've just been helping somebody write something that they've been doing recently. You need to think about the growth, like how have you taken what you've been given and expanded it or made it into something more successful, or how have you raised money for charity, or anything like that. Have you increased the membership? That's all something that a recruiter can understand. And I think one of the most important things is really getting your recruiter to understand you. And that's very hard on a piece of paper, but they don't know you. And if you're not explaining things well enough, then they're not going to understand it. So it's a really hard skill. And I think talking about yourself in applications or in CVs or anything like that is probably the hardest thing to do. But if you can think about that and really hone in on what the recruiter wants to hear from you and what they want to see within an experience, then I think you'd start to click and it will work a lot better for you.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's very hard for employers to know when they're not actually there as much as you think you contributed.
Yes, exactly. And that's what it's about, getting it down, using lots of active verbs like managing, devising, um, collaborating. There's so many that, you know, not the common ones that you use, like just conducted research, or you need to make it exciting as well and really sort of bulk it up like you're very excited about each and every experience, and that will come through and that will really, you know, catch the eye of somebody.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a very valid point. But so a lot of students struggle to source any legal experience, particularly as paralegal roles are becoming much more talked about at the moment as well, and people are realizing their value properly. So I was wondering what advice you'd give to students completing undergrad or postgrad courses in terms of sourcing the legal experience.
Yeah, okay. It is very hard, but I think you've got to send out speculative applications most of the time. You know, you need to target those small niche bespoke firms, the high street firms, um, solicitors and barristers that work within courts, and just send them an email. You know, if you can find their email address, even if something's not advertised, you need to be being proactive and saying, look, hey, I've got all of these skills and experiences. I'm a very ambitious, driven person, and I think I can contribute to your organization, your business, whatever. Is there any opportunities coming up? Can I work for 3 days? Can I work for a week, 2 weeks? If not, can I be put on a waiting list? And I think things like that will actually surprise you in a way, because there's a lot of firms out there that have targets where they have to bring in a certain amount of work experience students each year. And it's not something they're going to advertise because they don't want the admin of, you know, going through applications and having a fair and just recruitment process. So trying your luck is probably the best thing to do in terms of sourcing legal work experience. I think during my first year of university, I think I sent out about 50 applications, well, just emails attaching my CV and cover letter for summer placements. And I think I heard back from 3 of them, but that's still 3 out of 50. And I actually did 3 weeks worth of work experience off the back of that. Now, I know it's probably quite difficult during virtual times and, you know, whether the firms will actually allow for things like this, but you never know. And if you don't ask, you don't get. Another really good resource is LinkedIn. I drill into literally all of my mentees and everyone that I speak to how much you need to be utilizing LinkedIn. It's a really annoying platform and I hate it, and I actually don't like using it myself, but the amount of opportunities and experience you get from that off the cuff, or the insights you get, because so many recruiters are on there now and they often publish roles through statuses and just saying, hey, I've got this role, anyone interested, DM me. And you know, more times than not, you're probably going to be in a smaller pool of candidates going for that role, and you can build up reports with them. You can talk to them on a daily basis, you know, reinforce how deserving you are of these opportunities and really get in their good book so that when something does come up, they will think of you and they will message you. And just the networking aspect of LinkedIn is really, really essential. I think I got my first paralegal role from LinkedIn by just posting about how fed up I was that nobody was giving me the opportunity. And somebody reached out to me in the comments and invited me for an interview, and I got it. I didn't even apply. I didn't send my CV. I didn't do anything. So you just never know what you're going to get. And somebody said something to me the other day about, you could go to 10 networking events, which is another good source, or, you know, you could have 10 experiences and only one of them brings you something beneficial, but that one thing can completely change the direction of your career. So sometimes it feels like an effort, it feels like a chore to do all of these things, but unless you're actually applying yourself and putting yourself in positions where you're going to receive these kind of opportunities, then they're not going to come to you, you know, and it's going to make your life harder. So there's lots and lots of things you can be doing, but legal work experience really isn't essential at all. I am a firm believer of that. You just need to be demonstrating that you have good business awareness, that you know, you can do all of these things and you can be a good lawyer. And that's why non-law students are given the same opportunities as law students, because it rounds off the law firm. It gives them a really diverse pool of talent to pick from. So imagine if you were a non-law grad, or, you know, you had no legal experience and you got a training contract. You need to think about why those people are being offered the opportunities that you are not. you know, so create your own opportunities, which is something I've spoken to Alex about. Like, if there's something that, you know, needs fixing within a law society, fix it, go ahead and do it, you know. Or if you want to start your own Instagram account and blog your journey, then do it, because then that gives you something to talk about in your applications. And, you know, these are the kind of things that you need to be doing to make sure that you are bulking out all of these experiences. And it doesn't necessarily come just from having a paralegal role. So I can talk about this all day, every day, and I could go on forever. But hopefully, you know, you've got to think outside the box. That is the key to all of this. Don't be doing what every single other applicant is doing, because then you're not going to be unique. You're not going to have any selling points. Yeah, just try and do whatever you can, get involved with as much as you can. And I think, you know, doing it that way is much more enjoyable as well than, you know, just trying to go through the traditional routes all the time.
I mean, as you mentioned, I've definitely found that advice personally very helpful from our conversations in the past. But yes, I guess by reaching out as well and taking the first step, you're demonstrating even more transferable skills, and you're showing that you have the confidence and you can bring even more to the firm than just what's on your application then as well. But yes, thank you. So I think lots of training contract and VAC scheme applicants often undersell any experience they do have. So how would you draw the line between feeling that you're boasting about yourself and while selling your experience as best as you can?
Yeah, okay. So showcasing your skills is really, really difficult, but the way in which you speak about them on applications is very different to how you would speak about them in person, because selling yourself on paper it never really comes through very strongly. So you really have to go to town, really go to town, and go, you know, as big-headed and egotistical as you can think in terms of what you have achieved and the skills that you've demonstrated. Because when people read that, it really doesn't come through, as long as you've not been, you know, so in your face and within your writing skills. It doesn't come across as being big-headed or that you're, you know, you're going too far. So when you think that you're going too far is probably when you're going enough, you know, far enough in terms of your applications, your CV, your cover letter. But obviously then when you're speaking, you would tone it down a little bit and be a bit more friendly in your response, because it comes across differently. So that's something I really try and get people to push. And I've said it to plenty of people before, but treat your applications like you're talking about your best friend or somebody that you really love. You know, you really want this person to get the job. So what are you going to say to make the recruiter notice you? So yeah, I mean, you've got to showcase you know, as much as you can, and you do that by demonstrating the quantifiableness of what I said earlier. You know, you've got to say, I learned this skill through this, it demonstrated this to me, or I have this work ethic because of that, and, you know, I raised £1,000 in the meantime. You know, it's all about showing what you've learned, how you've impacted, and yeah, what you've done to get results. I think, is there anything else I can add to that? And the best way, to be honest, to do things like that, and I've got a research thing coming out soon that sets out how you should document your experiences, but you have to sit down with your CV and you have to almost draw up a table of all of the experiences that you've had, what skills they've helped you develop, and then how that would make you a really good lawyer. And I think once you've got that puzzle together, you'll be able to start really selling yourself and pushing through these things. But yeah, in terms of the question, I think you can never not go over the top with your applications. You really, really have to go very hard and be in the face of that recruiter, because they read all of these applications on a daily basis. They read hundreds of, if not thousands of applications. So if you're just being, you know, la 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 la, I did this and it was okay and I did that, then they're not going to care. They're just going to push your application off their desk and move on to the person that's saying, pick me, pick me. So yeah, just really think about how you can get yourself across. And ultimately, that means you're a good lawyer, because if you're marketing yourself and pushing through everything, you know, like why you deserve to be in that position, then you're going to gain clients, you're going to retain clients. So yeah, I think that's probably the best roundabout way, but probably very rambly way of getting what you deserve.
Not rambly at all, I promise. I think, Yeah, definitely. I mean, I almost feel, and maybe I'm a very guilty person, maybe it's that, but I often feel like it's almost, you feel like you know that you're selling yourself correctly, but it almost feels like lying. And then but you're completely right. They see so many applications that you have to make yours stand out. And at the end of the day, the training contract is what you want over everyone else.
Yeah, and I just would like to add to that, if you're not going to do it for yourself, then nobody else is gonna. Like, you know, if you're not pushing yourself and getting yourself out there, then you're going to stick in the same position for a really long time.
You really do have to have that drive. But so you've mentioned before about imposter syndrome, and I was wondering whether you dealt with it when going through the application stages, and if you think that it's normal to have it due to a lack of legal experience in general.
Yeah, for sure. I experience imposter syndrome pretty much every day, and even now during my training contract, it's something that is very prevalent. But it's very difficult to overcome it, and I think sometimes you just have to accept it and, you know, almost use it as an advantage and think, okay, well, if I'm feeling this way, what can I do to fix, you know, amend it or make myself feel less anxious. But yeah, it does come across a lot when you have no legal experience. But I mean, it's so hard because I know people in my intake at the moment that have had no legal experience whatsoever, and they are really struggling during their TC because they just don't understand, you know, the practices and processes like time recording or diary management or anything like that, because they haven't had the opportunity to kind of explore it with less pressure. Because obviously, when you're a trainee, you're held to a very high standard. So it can feel terrible, but I think as long as you are doing all of these things that I've suggested and getting lots of different types of experience, you know, working in retail is exactly the same as being a lawyer. It's just more client faced rather than just having lots of random customers all the time. So the best way to overcome it is to have regular feedback sessions with somebody that you trust, to get a mentor. There's so many free initiatives around at the moment in terms of mentoring, and it is something that I really implore you to go and seek out, because having a mentor will provide you with some direction and make you feel a lot more comfortable with the skills that you've got, because they will help you try and bring out the best. So please go and check that out if you don't have a mentor. And if you're above university level, then please mentor down as well, because the experiences that you have will really help, you know, somebody else that has been in your position prior. So yeah, I mean, imposter syndrome is awful, and it, you know, it's so hard in the legal industry because it's very easy to compare yourself to somebody else. But ultimately, all of these things that you're doing that other people are not doing, so like turning up to this event, for example, means that you are putting yourself in a better position. And even if you're not being successful at the moment, still applying yourself and turning up on a Saturday and listening to me drown on about work experience is going to help you in the long run, because when you do become a trainee and when you are successful, you're going to breeze through it. You're going to have all of these experiences under your belt. You're going to be so much more resilient, and you're going to really smash things going forward. Whereas the people that get it easy and, you know, they move into things or they don't have any legal work experience, then struggle the other side of things, and that's not the struggle that you want to endure. It's better to have it now and then, you know, get into a place that you need to be, because it's going to be so bittersweet when you get there, and you'll really be able to impress people. So yeah, going back to the question, imposter syndrome I have experienced all the time, and it is hard having non-legal experience. But as I've always said, legal experience really does not matter all that much in terms of it, because you learn everything on the job. There's nothing that is part of my uni degree or my LPC or anything that's set me up for the skills that I needed to be for training, which is another problem in itself. But you know, you're not expected to know anything when you get there, so you've just got to trust the process and, you know, be supported when you are there.
I will admit I was really hoping that the LPC and all that would tell me exactly how to be a lawyer, I will say. But I think with my experience with mentoring, it's been really helpful, even with mentoring, just having a monthly chat. And then once you go through what you've done in that month, even that in itself is helpful as well, because you realize how much you've grown. But Yeah. So you mentioned earlier about having the right approach to applications and then being an art form. I was wondering whether there's any key aspects of the application that you thought that specifically applied to.
Yeah, I think getting your work experience is a very important section and is a section that people tend to overlook. They tend to just go in for the questions or the cover letter. But yeah, really doing what I said at the beginning, spending a lot of time sitting down with yourself in your CV and thinking, right, okay, I've got this experience, this is the skill that I've got, this is how it's going to make, and writing those sentences and linking it all together in a really meaningful way is going to catch the recruiter's eye. Because if you think about the application process itself, the first thing that a recruiter sees in that PDF that you submit is your work experience. And if that is not up to scratch, then they may not even get onto the questions. So it is about really setting it out. And the best way to do that is to think about the skill, think about the lesson you learned, the task that you had, and then, you know, the overall outcome and how that affected your work ethic. So once you've got that sorted, that's one thing. The next thing to do is research the firm as much as you possibly can. And this comes, again, a lot of time. You might not even write anything in your application. You're doing all of this work. You know, you've got your document that sets out all your experiences and skills. You've got another document that sets out literally all the information that you can find about the firm. Then you start to look at the questions, and you need to try and marry these two documents that you've created together. So how can you show your skills and show the research that you found from the firm to then equate to why you want to work there? You know, you need to be making really unique and significant links between the two to really impress somebody, because what they want to see is that you're going to fit into that firm well, you're going to deal with their clients well, and that you're going to be able to share a room with somebody that works there already. If you're not getting your personality across and making all of these links and demonstrating why you really want to work for this firm, then it's not going to go well. And the application process is so tiring because it takes forever to write one application. I'm expecting you to spend at least 2 to 3 weeks on one application. Now, that's not every single day blocking out massive amount of time, but you need to give yourself time to think about these links, and they only come to you once you've written the application, you've gone away and you've thought, okay, well, how can I improve that? Maybe you might have another life experience during that week that you think, oh my God, I need to get this into my application. And those little sparks are what's going to make you stand out. So you've got to factor in a lot of time for these applications, and that's why you need to start early, and you need to get all of these documents prepared so that when it comes to actually applying, you've done all the groundwork. You know, now you just really need to sit down and answer these questions as well as you can. Another little tip that I've picked up on is going back to what I said about the recruiter not knowing who you are. A lot of time applicants leave the recruiter asking why or how is this beneficial? Why have you decided to tell me this? And it's not easy to spot yourself, because you think that, you know, you're just talking about yourself, blah, blah, blah. I did this, I did that and that. But if you're not really linking it to the firm or linking it to why you're a good lawyer, then the recruiter's going to be like, I don't know why you're telling me this. Why is it relevant? And I think a lot of the word count is often used up by those kind of scenarios, because people don't really think about how it would come across from somebody that doesn't know you. So again, you've got to try and factor in time to get somebody to read your application for you. And I know this is a really difficult thing and people find it very boring and they don't want to read your applications, but it's so important. Like, it's something that really does need to happen, just so that somebody can say, yep, I understood what you said. It all made sense to me. Because if you haven't got that kind of like a tick box exercise, then you probably will leave things unanswered. And yeah, that's just not very helpful. And then finally, I'd probably say you need to make sure you answer the question. And I know that sounds really crazy, but more times than not, you will not actually answer what has been asked of you. And sometimes the meaning of the question is hidden because they want to see how well you understand the firm or the business or anything like that. But you really need to think about, why is the recruiter asking me this? Like, what is it that they want to see in this answer? And once you kind of get into that mindset, I think you'll start to see those hidden meanings and really bring out what it is that they want to see. So for example, they may say something to you like, try to think of one off the top of my head. What is a good one? There's like commercial awareness articles. They want to see that you have an understanding of how law firms operate, so what they need, so like training, marketing, all of the different pillars of their business, the revenue, things like that. They want to understand that you know what it takes to run a law firm almost, or what, you know, the impact of what all of these different moving parts mean. So if they say you to think about a commercial awareness article, you need to find something that the firm is already heavily involved in. And this might be from their blog page on part of the website. It might be from a key piece of news that you've picked up, and applying that to the firm and talking about how it's going to impact their clients, their stakeholders, their employees, things like that, is what they're kind of looking for. They want you to see the bigger picture always. So if you just pick a random article and you think, oh yeah, this is interesting, and I've talked about this and that and the other, but then don't link it back to the firm, then it's a wasted answer, because why would you write about something random on your application that has nothing to do with the firm? You're applying to that specific firm. So you need everything to link as clearly and concisely as possible. So yeah, just remember who you're applying to and why you're applying there. And I think that will really help you to get this art form going.
Do you think that's the case for every sort of, I know some firms have like 3 or 4 long answer questions. Is it possible to sort of overkill your firm research and relate too much back to them?
Good question. Yes and no, because you need to get the right balance. You need to be selling yourself and demonstrating the research in the firm. And sometimes with the word count, it really doesn't allow you to do much. So yeah, I think you've got to be careful and strike a balance. But ultimately, they want to see that this is the firm that you're applying to. And that's why you have to be quite specific in your research and the firms that you target, because it's a lot easier to apply to 10 firms that are very similar than 10 firms that are all completely different, because that's going to create so much work for you. You're going to have to really, really do a lot of research and make sure that you are hitting the firm on, you know, the head, like in terms of living and breathing what they stand for. So yeah, I think you've got to tailor it specifically to each firm that you're applying to. And some firms, from your research, you'll find out whether they want to see a lot of stuff about them, or they want to see a lot of stuff about you, or, you know, stuff about their clients. And that's being smart about the application process, is that once you do all of this research, you will see a strong pattern between different applications and what they're asking for you. And you've got to change up your strategy each time, because if you are doing the same thing across the board, then that's not going to work for each firm. Because even though lots of firms do look the same on paper, they all operate very, very differently. So that's part of the research, is that understanding each application is going to be very different. You can't just have a one shoe fits all approach. So yeah, you've just got to be very, very on the ball, and yeah, make sure you're paying attention.
Thank you. So do you think that's another benefit of LinkedIn as well, because you're able to connect with or ask questions of solicitors who are at the firm and their experience with applications?
Definitely. I think, yeah, that's a very good point. Networking in terms of LinkedIn is also useful for that, because you can ask questions to people that work at the firm. A lot of times there are people on LinkedIn that will answer the things that you want to know. So if you approach them very politely and just say, you know, hey, I'm really interested in working at this firm. I've seen that you've done X, Y, Z. Please, could you tell me a little bit more about that? Or could you tell me about what it's like to work for the firm? Those kind of links and insight are going to be so invaluable, because you write about them on your application. You say, speaking with X, I learn X. And, you know, that is impressive, because it means that you are reaching out and you're trying to really understand the firm that you're applying to. So that's a great little tip to really sort of help those things, especially if you've not actually been at the firm or been to an event with the firm or had an insight day or anything like that. Yeah, I think that will really help you to understand the application.
Thank you. So we've got a few questions, or a fair few questions now, appearing in the chat. And there's one at the top. If I start at the top anyway, that makes more sense. But there's one from Tammy saying, could you give a bit more information about your assessment centre experience there?
Yeah, so my assessment centre was relatively quite easy, I think, in terms of specifically to the firm I'm at now rather than the other ones that I've had. And that's because my firm has a very friendly approach and doesn't like to put people under pressure, whereas lots of firms will try and put you under pressure. But in terms of my experience, I had 3 different exercises. I think I had a negotiation where I had to explain why I deserved to stay on a mountain that was no get off a mountain, be rescued from a mountain, over like 16 other people. I had to review an NDA contract, like just general clauses, and just explain whether some amendments would be beneficial or disadvantageous to one of my clients. And then what else did I have to do? Oh, I had to do like a Dragon's Den style pitch where I had to create an innovative product for a law firm and sort of explain why I deserved my idea to be invested into. So usually at assessment centres, they will be based on real life clients that the firm has, or scenarios that you would likely encounter being a trainee solicitor. So again, it's just thinking about the bigger picture. You don't actually have to have any background knowledge or any experience in these kind of situations. You just need to be thinking ultimately, like, how am I going to achieve the best goal for my client? Or, you know, how can I demonstrate that I'm providing the best quality service? And all of these skills come again from having normal jobs. You know, negotiation can come from working in retail and, I don't know, having an argument with a customer and you've got to come to some sort of compromise, or, you know, within a team, you've not, certain people don't want to do certain jobs. So like, how are you going to get a result? You know, those kind of things working together to coming to a conclusion will set you up perfectly. Or like presenting or giving training at some sort of work task, or at a staff meeting, discussing certain goals or things like that, all give you the necessary skills for these kind of things. So the important thing is just not to panic and just really think about what it is you need to be showing. Another really good one that I've had is a hackathon, which was, I know some virtual firms are now doing this on their like VAC schemes, but I had to basically build a software. We had some training on it beforehand, so you don't go into it completely in the dark. But you had to come up in a team with a really good idea that could help automate clients' work matters, like efficiency, making things better. And that one is a little bit tough because you do try and have to have some commercial awareness, or it is helpful if you worked in a firm as a paralegal or something, because you do know what is missing, and it's about spotting those kind of things. But if you have a good understanding of businesses, then that's quite helpful. But the one piece of advice I'd give for being an assessment centre is you got to think about the other candidates. If you are in a situation within a team and somebody is not speaking, then the best thing you can do is say, hey, I noticed that you've not contributed. Would you like to say anything? You know, those kind of like people skills and awareness of things that are going on around you is what they're assessing. It's about not being too overpowering, but still being confident and putting, you know, your voice forward. Another really good thing to do is, like, sometimes they give you situations that might be timed, that might require somebody to take notes. And it's all about just saying, okay, right, guys, I think that somebody needs to keep an eye on the time, somebody needs to take notes, somebody needs to do this. If you start delegating out roles and then say, I'm happy to do this, does anyone else want to do that? That is the kind of skills that they're assessing. It's not really about the knowledge or actually how you're performing. It's just how you interact with the task and, you know, try and get whatever it is that they've asked you to do done as quickly and efficiently as possible. And I'm not even sure if that is very helpful, but again, I just kind of want to reinforce that you've always got to be thinking about the bigger picture. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Kind of. Let me know if you've got anything off the back of that, please, Temi, and I will chat some more.
I think that definitely, your experience definitely sounds like one of the more creative assessment centre experiences I've heard of.
Yeah, to be fair, there are some like really corporate things where you might do a case study. Actually, just to add on to that, I've had a case study before, but that's again comes back to your research, because as I say, they tend to base these scenarios on real life situations or real life clients. So if you've done your research, you'll know how the firm approaches these kind of things, and then it's just kind of just remembering that and just trying to get that across. And yeah, there's not really any art to it at all. There's no knack. You don't really need to practice. Obviously, it's very helpful to practice, but taking the information you've got in front of you and turning it into something that is going to be talked through, like a logical step-by-step process to achieving a goal, is all you need to do. You just need to think about it like a maths equation where you just show your workings out. That's it. You know, it's just being quite smart and on the ball and just trying to pick up things that potentially other people won't pick up. But just going off that, you need to think about it less of a test and just being able to do a normal task as you would as a solicitor, if that makes sense. Like, you try and think of it less of an assessment and just really like, if this was given to you in the workplace, what would you do? So yeah, again, just a lot about perspective of these kind of things.
Thank you. I mean, I definitely think there's probably quite a lot to think about when you're going through an assessment centre and a lot to balance. So I was wondering, I mean, I've yet to get an application to an assessment centre, but I was wondering how you deal with nerves at the same time.
Good question. Somebody on Clubhouse, I don't know if anyone uses Clubhouse, said to me the other day, when you are nervous, you need to turn that into excitement. You are excited to be there. You're excited to be given the opportunity to have this role. And I think that's such a good tip. You know, nerves and excitement are very similar. They give you the same kind of adrenaline rush. So if you keep telling yourself, again, having a positive attitude towards things and just saying, I'm so excited to be here over and over again, I actually think it works. It calms you right down. And it gives you something to bounce off, because nerves are absolutely essential. I think if you're not nervous, you don't want it enough. So use that energy and create it into something, you know, that's bouncy and confident, and which is very hard in itself, but there's no combating nerves. So you've just got to do something to make yourself feel better. And obviously taking breathers, taking sips of water if you're, you know, extra nervous when somebody's asked you a question, and just really taking the time to think about what you want to say is going to be very, very helpful. I think people rush into questions a lot of the time, when in reality, during a conversation, you've seen from me answering some of these questions, like the one about the assessment centre, or the one about the question where I was trying to think about a good example, you can take your time. You really don't have to answer straight away. You can say, oh, that's a really good question, or that's really interesting, thank you so much. I'm just going to think about that for a second. Okay, yeah, you know, that's not a normal, and I think people feel a bit awkward doing stuff like that, but it really does help to keep yourself under control, and not say something that potentially you'll regret, or something that just doesn't make sense. So yeah, just breathe, take your time, and turn that energy into something more positive.
I think that's definitely very good advice. And it's more normal than some of the weird advice you get for overcoming nerves, at least.
I just don't think there's any getting around it. But like I say, if you're not nervous, then you don't want to be there. So
Exactly.
just, try and keep telling yourself good things.
And I guess everyone's going to be as nervous as each other anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, that's another good thing to think about, is, you know, everyone's in the same boat. It's just what you do with that nervous energy that's going to make you successful. So yeah, and I mean, you get it even now as a trainee. I'm constantly nervous. You know, I'm doing things wrong all the time. It doesn't really go away. You've just got to learn to kind of manage it and get it under control.
Thank you. So we've got I think you can see the question from Finley in the chat as well. I think to summarise it, in highlighting your work experience, would you recommend using a piece of work that the firm has done and linking it to that while trying to stay within the word count?
Yeah, I think you're on the right tracks there. This experience should help me understand the work. You've done this error. Yes, yeah, I think that's exactly it. You're on hitting the nail on the head there, that you need to talk about something that you've experienced and then link it to the firm. And that is a very good way of doing it. It could be publication, it could be work, it could be a client, it could be a lawyer that you know works there, that could be awards, it could be rankings, it could be revenue statistics. Like, it literally can be anything, as long as it works, you know, that it makes sense. That's the idea, is that you want to get your research in almost like amalgamated into the experience and things that you're talking about, to ease up the word count. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, Finley. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty good.
Thank you. So I can see a question from Sophia underneath, asking if you can give some examples of things to pick out about a firm which speak to why you want to work there.
Good, yeah, okay. And this comes from your research, definitely. I did a post on this. It's called Finding the Firm for You, and I am just gonna summarize my tips from there. But this really does come from your personality. And once you've found your criteria from what you want out of an employer, rather than a law firm, think about what it is that you want within your job. Is it, I don't know, salary satisfaction? Is it being able to have a mentoring scheme? Those kind of things will help you to find the right firms. And then from that, you will know that you have found the right firm, and then bring that through in your application. So some of the things you might want to talk about are, no, that's the practice area. Sorry, I'm finding the wrong one. Where is it? God, I can't even navigate my own legal page. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Here we go. So diversity and inclusivity might be that you're LGBTQ, or you would like some sort of alliance. It might be the fact that the firm promotes social mobility. Could be office location, whether you have the opportunity to have secondments. Could be the trainee intake size. You might want to work in a really big cohort or a very small cohort and be given lots of responsibility, or, you know, there's lots of different pros and cons to each of those. Mentorship, I've already said, might be revenue and performance. It might be how the firm is perceived externally. It might be how much money they're turning over each year, if that's something that excites you, something that is a driver for you. Could be work-life balance. How, you know, when are you likely to clock off, or, you know, are you expected to work on the weekends, etc. It could be salary. We've already mentioned that. So that's kind of like they're kind of things that you need to think about, like, what is really important to you. Is it the benefits that the firm offers? You know, lots of firms offer a variety of different things. It might be life insurance, dental insurance, gym memberships, that kind of thing. Once you have a list of that, you can then sort of start ticking it off within the firm, and then you can start bringing that into your application each time. Because if you've done that work prior to applying, then it's very easy to start pulling that through. Yeah, I mean, one of my key factors for working at my firm now was women in power. And I know that sounds very cliche and stuff, but my firm had, I think, the first ever, or the longest reigning female managing partner. And that was something that really stood out to me. It was something that, you know, I was very fond of, because I thought, wow, okay, if this woman can do it, that's like an inspiration to me. That's a role model that I want to look up to. She's obviously very happy within the firm because she stayed for that long, and she's managed to work her way up. And then since joining the firm, my firm has now hired the second consecutive managing partners. We have a new managing partner, but that speaks volumes to me as somebody, because I want to be able to potentially be in their position in, say, like 40 years time. And it's doable, you know, it's something that I know I could do within this firm. So it's that kind of thing that you need to be thinking about. You know, what is it that really is something that excites you or makes you want to work there, and then you'll be able to link that in the firm, to the firm within your application.
I think that's definitely a key point, working out what you want from the firm as well as what
exactly.
The firm. So as the last question for today, I believe it's one of the last ones in the chat, we've got a question asking, do you think the law firm's vision and mission is what is best to tie one's application to? So
do you think, sorry, I didn't hear that. That went in one ear and out the other. No. Do you think the law firm's vision and mission is what is best to tie one's up? Okay. Yes and no. I'm actually going to, can I share my screen?
I think
Can somebody set me up with that? Because I actually have my trials application here. And I was thinking about it a minute ago. I will show you how I spoke about Nando's in my application. And you'll see that in my work experience, I linked it to my to the core values of the firm that I'm applying to now. So this is what I wrote in my work experience section, and hopefully it will give you an example of kind of the things I was talking about. This is by no means a perfect way of doing things, so please, obviously there's no formulas getting this right. I'm just trying to be exemplary. I'm not trying to say this is the way you need to do it, because like I say, you know, my advice might be completely different for, you know, for another firm. It really does depend on your own thing, so please don't take this as gospel, but I'll let you read that just for a second. And you can see within this how I've linked the firm's mission statement and core values to my experiences, but with not in the application actual word count. So there's sneaky ways that you can bring in your research into each of your applications without, you know, necessarily bringing it through in the questions that they ask you. So yes and no, because core values are something that is going to be very personal to you, and it is going to be something that the firm will want to see that you identify with, but I don't think it's probably like the most important thing that you need to talk about, especially as if you've not actually been at the firm, you've not had an insight day or vacation scheme, or you know lots of people that work there, then you can't actually really talk about the culture or what their visions actually are, because you've not experienced it personally. So I would recommend kind of staying away from core values and mission statements and things like that, because like I say, unless you work there, you don't actually know what it's like. However, it is something that they need to kind of match to you. So for example, Nando's obviously had these core values. They had pride, passion, integrity, courage, and family. That was their main core values, which is really did resonate with the Trowers core value. So I took the opportunity to link that together. However, if I was potentially applying to a different firm and these core values didn't really link, and I couldn't explain why my experience at Nando's could transfer into Trowers or, you know, whatever firm, then I potentially would have taken a different approach. So again, it is really about knowing the firm that you're applying to and making sure that you change up your strategy each time. So yes, core values and mission statements can be things to draw on, but sometimes they won't be very helpful. And there's lots of other things you should focus on, like clients, cases, stats, awards, which is going to marry you to the firm and your experiences a lot better.
I mean, thank you very much for that. I think it's definitely helpful. Thank you for sharing that part of your application. I think it's definitely helpful to see an exact example of how you've done it yourself, and in an application that we know was successful.
Yeah, exactly. And I just to add on that, and sorry for the shameless plug, there is a training contract guide on my blog where I include a lot of different examples from successful applications that I've had. So if you do want some other examples about how to try and like link things to the firm and your experiences and things, go and have a look at that on my blog, because yeah, that's probably the most helpful thing that you could do to sort of set yourself up for applications, is try and look at examples and how you could take bits and pieces from people's way of doing things.
Thank you again. I think we're coming up to the end of our session now. So thank you so much for your time. I think it's been, well, definitely for me, it's been incredibly useful to hear what you're saying. And I think I definitely need to apply some of that to my future applications completely. So definitely thank you everyone for attending as well. And definitely follow Megan's Instagram page. It's All Hearsay. It's definitely a very helpful source. But for the last few minutes, I'd like to hand over to Rachel from Legal Mile. She's going to speak a bit about our upcoming negotiation competition.
Hi. Thank you so much, Alex, and thank you, Megan, for a really insightful session, really great advice, and thank you for showing an example of your application. That was really very helpful. Really quickly, we have our negotiation competition coming up on the 31st of July and 1st of August at the end of this month. It's on a weekend to make sure everyone can attend. If you want to practice your negotiation skills, if you want to practice for an assessment center, this is the place to do it. make all your errors here with us where there are no consequences, and you'll be fully ready for your assessment day or just generally any negotiation related concept. Our signups will be on our Legal Mile Global website, or you can look through our LinkedIn page and you can find the sign up sheet there. Definitely going to be really, really useful. You don't need a team. Just come as you are. We'll assign you just like how you are assigned to random people in a group during your assessment days. Practice your teamwork skills, your negotiation skills. Please sign up. It's really, really helpful. And we've managed to partner with BPP Law School and the Negotiation Club as well. And you get a training session that's exclusive to you. So please sign up. Thank you very much, Alex.
There, I think if that's all now, I'll leave the rest of you to enjoy the rest of your day, I think. So
I would just like to say as well, if anyone does have any further questions, please feel free to DM me. I love voice noting. It's something that I love spending my time doing. I don't know why, it's a weird thing, but yeah, I'm more than happy to chat things through with you. So yeah, please do come over and let me know if you've got anything further.
Thank you very much. And so I leave that to everyone to enjoy the rest of their Saturday then.
Thanks very much.